Okay, this is going to have to probably suffice for my Saturday flow report. Got a little behind tonight. I was out in the rain. Everything got wet. A bit warm right now, so I'm going to take off some clothing here. I got it all drying right now. Just hanging. Oh, fuck. Some of these clothes stick together when you pull them apart. They're just hanging in the foyer. They're kind of drying off. I'm kind of doubling them up to make a doorway as well. They're drenched. Fortunately, I have a change of clothes this time, so I got into dry stuff right away. I learned from my last lesson. Had a few unforeseens. I spilt my piss bucket. I think I mentioned that the other night. That set me back a little bit. And tonight, I come in, I got a can of, like, I've run out of all my food almost, right? I deliberately do that so I don't have a lot of stuff on stock. Oh, we got a little noise happening up there. But I had a can of beans and some tomatoes and some meat sticks. I was going to make some chili in the crock pot. I had some lentils and stuff and some barley, and it's going to be like, yeah. That was much earlier this evening. I went to open up the crock pot, and I guess I put it, I haven't used it in like a week or so, maybe two. Pulled the lid off, and there's this fucking fungal foam coming out. Thick, massive fucking green shit. Didn't smell too bad, but it didn't look so good. I thought I'd cleaned it and put it with just water ready, that I just heat the water up. I can use the water to finish washing it, wash my face, hands, whatever, shave, and then do my dinner. And well, when you come in and that's all dirty, so I have to haul it outside, put it under the fucking canopy there so that the rain, it's pissing out, right? So take advantage of the rain when it's doing that. You put stuff out in the rain to get washed. So I put the dishes out there, and I thought, okay, I'll have peanut butter sandwiches, but you know, I'm still hungry. And around 10 o'clock or so, maybe 9:30, I decided, okay, I'll start cooking some stuff in the microwave. Using two mason jars and one little bowl, trying to cook a pot of chili that was meant to go in a 2-liter or 4-liter, whatever, crock pot is quite a challenge, especially at a 5-minute at a time setting, which is what I got. So to speed it up, I got the meat sticks toasting in the toaster oven on low, getting all the fat out of it and everything. Then I'll put that over the tomatoes and stuff. Tomatoes I cooked in the mason jar separate. Got the lentils still stewing in some boiling water. I boiled it first, then put the lentils in, then put it back in the microwave. Bring it up to boil, and then let it sit for 5 minutes. Bring it up to boil, let it sit 5 minutes. 5 on, 5 off. It got pretty warm in here already. It's already 12:30. I was hoping to be everything done and in bed by 12. By the time I finish cooking, because you can't just leave it, it'll be fucked by tomorrow. I'm going away tomorrow morning, just for the day. But still, it's going to sit until tomorrow night, depending on the weather. It might even be the next night. I don't want it to go to waste. That's like, fuck, that's 3 days worth of food altogether by the time I've uncanned everything and put it all together. And a couple tablespoons of grains, and holy shit, they ever go far. A little bit of seasoning, add a potato for thickener, and next thing you know, you got this freaking big, huge pot of, like, it's excellent. Go out in the forest tonight on my forest forage. I'm going to flash through this because I'm really tired and I got to get to bed. Pissing down fucking rain, like, just, I got soaked right through. However, I got soaked right through because after I did my shelter experiment, my little fire in the woods while it's like pissing down rain, I found a spot within a few minutes, got some bark, made a little landing, got some cherry bark or birch bark. I'm not sure which it was. It was kind of hard to tell because it was starting to get dark, but I know the look of it and the feel of it. Cut up a few shreds of that. I did it with just my bare hands and a lighter. Now, I've got a ferro rod here that's almost worn out. I'm going to get another one, but I'm pretty confident I could have started faster with a ferro rod. Picked up some fungus tonight, some conchs. I got them drying in the other room right now. They're the kind of thing that you could, you know, you cut up a little round disc and you put it in like a, fuck, I haven't got one handy. Well, you know, a tuna can. You just get a little tuna can, you know. And you cut the round disc just the size to fit in the tuna can. Cut a little hole in the top of it, or in the in the fungus, just down the center. And basically, I just put a couple of drops of alcohol in that, let it ignite. The thing does go out, but it glows and stays hot for hours. And it produces this smoke that to me smells like you're cooking cinnamon buns. It smells great. Now, you don't want to overdo it. It's more for the aromatic that I do that. You can rub a little bit of pine sap, and I got a big wad of gooey pine sap like this tonight. Prime stuff. I found a number of sources, and I'm going on this. Look, I could have got enough to fill a couple of cans today. I only needed that little ball. I figured, go out and get what energy I need for the night. So I picked up a handful of pine cones too, thinking I'll dry them out. Now, I might not eat the pine nuts, but maybe other critters here will. And later, I was going to go out and get some what do you call them? Brussels sprouts. Nobody touched them. There's a whole bunch of them going to waste out in Tony's garden there. I kept... Sound like myself. Oh, it couldn't be myself. There's something making a beeping noise over there. I think it's one of the rats. Oh, so I worked up a bit of a sweat. But being all wet and with a sweat, you put on another pair of you take your clothes, you wear them a day or so, wait till they're stinky, take them off, turn them inside out, hang them up in the foyer where the air blows right through. So it's basically outside, right? It's like a jet stream goes over it. And that freshens them up. You wear them again inside out for a day, and then turn around, reverse the process. So if you got 2 pair of clothes, you got enough to last forever, almost. Anyway, between that crock pot, spilling my piss all over the other night, ended up getting really wet. I did lose a liter of beer last night when I was out for my walk with Greg, and that's why I went out today. I thought, I'm not going to let that go. I went back to look for that bottle of beer. It was a full liter of beer I lost. Well, I was blessed today because right where I thought, it was a second spot. The first one was closer to home, so I checked that one out first. But the spot where I really thought that I lost it, it was exactly there. Actually, I thought it would have been just off into the bush a bit, but it was right on the side of the fucking road. A few minutes later, a couple of people walked by. I mean, they would have seen it. It's like, you know, they might have, I don't know, probably kicked it, knocked it in the ditch, and wouldn't have found it. But I was pleased. So to celebrate, I went and collected some pine cones, some pine sap. I got some different kind of barks, some pine needles to add to my tea. There's my other jar for making coffee. Just put some coffee in there. Some coffee grinds, nuke it. When you're done, it waterproofs the floor and creates a lovely coffee experience for your feet. 100% recyclable. Zero waste. Utilize everything. So tomorrow I'm going for smokes, and we're going to be brewing some beer. It's supposed to get cold again, going below zero again soon. So I've been turning the heat off completely, and just going on bare minimum. And today, just cooking. It's gotten too warm in here for me. Like right now, if I wasn't just sitting down, if I was still up cooking, I'd be sweating like a pig. I'd just be dressed like this. So it's gotten to a point where it's on par with someone's regular home inside now. And it's when it's around the freezing mark. It gets much colder than that, and it gets a little tricky because the air movement through here, it can get cold. I mean, I've had it down minus 10 in here before. In fact, I've sat in this very spot at minus 15. Floor temperature, minus 15. And that was the warmest I could get it. Now, when I first moved in, the landlord had heat on in here, everything, had all the full facilities and everything I could have took advantage of. Instead, we've turned all that off, and in all honesty, I find it more comfortable in here now than I did because the air doesn't get stuffy and clammy like it did before. It would get like 70, 80 degrees up here when the furnace was running, plus noisy as fuck. It poofs up a big thing of dust every time it kicks on. And it had those dead spots all over. The air just felt like, holy fuck, it's finished. And on the floor, I couldn't leave my beer on the floor. It was still getting below freezing on the floor, even with all that. So the way I got it now, even when it's minus 10, it takes a few days before it drops down cold enough on the floor. So overall, it's getting better and better, easier and easier, warmer and warmer, more and more comfortable. I did some work in my bed. We're going to be getting a camera. I want to do a number of... I would have loved to have my camera with me to show what I did out in the woods tonight. And then when I was done, I built a little lean-to fort out of bark, tree bark, like really thick. I pulled it off, and the fucking stuff came off as long as my body. And as I started looking at all the dead trees, instead of looking at the dead trees, I looked at which ones are still thriving. And instead of, oh, look at all the fruit trees that are now dead, it's like, hey, that's excellent cookwood for the camps, for people frequenting the forest. And I found another little lean-to on my foray back after I did my own. But you just do a little bit each time. And I'm hoping that people of this area, and everywhere really, that when you see these little shelters made, think about that. That actually might be somebody's home, for fuck's sake. Have some respect for it. You can leave little things inside the shelter wrapped up. You don't know who's going to use it. That's the gift of all this. I think it's so beautiful. I'm going to encourage people not to take things that obviously belong to any camp. We find different appliances when we're out on the hike, and it's like to find the owner again. I don't know. It happens, but I'm just hoping in the good faith of people, especially in light of what I've seen in the forest. There's so much death, and it was so hard because I start getting depressed when I see the forest dying. And it's not because it's this time of year that everything looks dead. It's like, no, these trees are bleeding to death, dying, falling down. Most of them aren't going to survive the next 2 years, 3 years. An enormous number of trees in the 7 years I've been here have, and I haven't seen anything replace them yet. It's got me very worried. At the same time, I thought, and this is all inspired from that walk. That's why I wanted to say this before I packed up and went to bed. There's 2 or 3 trees I seen tonight. One in particular is starting to fall over into the creek, and there's not much you can do to save it except just leave it, and hopefully it starts a new growth off, because some of the trees like willows will fall down and grow a whole new tree. But when there's only 2 or 3 of that particular tree anywhere in the area, and these are huge trees, and you see them falling down or dying, an alarm goes off. As much as there's so much wood, I mean, the amount of pine and cedar and stuff up there, and some of it beautiful quality. I mean, it wouldn't take much to go out with, as much as I'm against the power tools, with someone along the edge with a chainsaw and cut these things into 5-foot long logs. Within a few minutes, kids could go out there, if there's a pile of them, and build little fucking play areas, shelters. You can start, tiering the landscape. So instead of it slothing down, you can start building it up and tiering it and making little garden pathways, walkways, just using the stuff that's there. Be creative. There's so much in that forest. All the bark on them trees. I mean, if I'd have started early in the day, I could have easily built a shelter I could have slept in tonight in the pouring fucking rain. What a feeling to go out. I know you think you can do it, you think you can do it, you bring a tent with you, bring a tarp. No, I had nothing except my backpack and slightly underdressed. I wasn't really expecting the rain to get that hard either. And by the time I found myself down the valley, it's a long walk back up, and it's through slushy, wet areas, and it's a fairly lengthy walk. It doesn't look it when you look over the edge and see, oh, you think you'd be up or down there in just a couple of minutes. It's a lot longer path. It seems to get longer every time I walk it, even though I'm taking a more direct route, if that makes any sense. So there's the fire I made. I got it to a point where, hey, there, it's big. I can keep it going. Okay, I put some snow on it, putting it out now. Covered it over so you can't tell it was there, but I left all the material and I put some more firewood there. There's some really nice hardwood I put beside one of the trees underneath. Covered up with bark. I got some, it must have been birch. I'm almost sure of it. Anyway, about that big a diameter birch bark and about 2 feet long. Great big huge piece. Enough I could have put over my head and shoulders and just, it would have made like almost a canopy to help keep me dry. But I thought, no, I'll just leave it there and let it dry out. It's putting it in a spot where it's not likely anyone's going to take it or even recognize it. And just trying to follow all the natural patterns in the ground. I mean, within a few yards of where I decided I was going to make camp, and I picked a spot that's on a downswell, so as the water's coming down the hill, it's going to follow this, and it's right on the edge of it. I was checking the airflow and where it went, the smoke, everything, and it's like, holy shit, I picked a good spot. So there's a number of these spots that we got out in the forest. Now imagine you could just walk around almost anywhere and just hang out there. Decide to spend the night and watch the stars. Just experience what it's like to hear the sound of the forest. To be self-sustaining, even for a day or two, is quite a feeling. Something that I think everyone, it should be part of our upbringing. And by going out camping and taking your Coleman and everything, fuck that. You know what? That's not camping. That's people going into the woods to try and bring their modern technology to the woods and decimate the forest. Because they're not going to try and conform to the forest. They're going hoping the forest won't override all their natural fucking thrills of, what do you call it, luxury, right? Oh, and another thing. With this tin can, and the little lid that came off another tin can that's just slightly larger that I bent, you gotta be careful because I got some pointed pieces in here. Anyway, you just push it in so it's just like this. Okay, the side that's wide like this, I don't know if that shows up, but the wide side, that's your exhaust. This side over here, that's your intake. Air goes in there. So you put your fuel in here, a couple sticks, drop a tablespoon of alcohol in there, and just set her there. Actually, you put it inside of another container like this with the air holes on it, and you do it in a properly ventilated spot. I might add too, in case anyone's getting the wrong idea. That's my cigarette smoking in there. I use it as an ashtray. So you've got this kind of a setup, and then I put that generally on just like a little pie pan or a piece of brick or anything like that, right? I've just been doing testers. I'm watching it. They only burn for like 20 minutes, half an hour, but just doing that with a couple of small twigs. I mean small, I mean 2 pieces like that. You got enough to make a pot of coffee and probably fried an egg. I'm not joking. 2 pieces like that, done inside of this tin can with this design, is so simple and elegant. I tried it the other night and I was fucking blown away with it. Now, you add walnuts, it gets dangerous, because I tried them with a walnut experiment and I had it inside of an aluminum can inside of a tin can. It melts aluminum pretty quick. So there's some really good temperatures you can get, and this brings me to my final detail of tonight's rant. Actually, it's early Saturday morning. It's 12:48 right now, so this is Saturday Morning Flow. I was thinking of starting a forum called Saturdays with Satan and Selena, but I can't find Satan, can't find Selena, and my Satan account got banned by YouTube. Don't know why yet. It was one of the best accounts I had. I had some cool stuff in there, and it's not what you think. It was all about Earthship solutions and things to do with the land and preparing it. So this year I've got trellises all over. I've piled stuff up in ways that are... Oh, I think I forgot to say something. What was it about? Well, just keep ranting. Boy, oh boy, the critters are busy tonight. Take a note, because they get busy and really active and loud. Usually just before sunset until a little bit after. And anywhere from 3 in the morning until usually just before dawn. And yet sometimes they don't. It seems to have, I think it has more to do with the temperature change. If the temperature is anticipated to go down, they seem to get a little busy up front. I'm just trying to check the weather right now. It's still 6 degrees out. That's why it's so freaking hot in here. Oh, 5 degrees and it's pissing down. Okay. And it's going to drop down to 1. Okay, so from 5, 3, 2, 0, -3, -4. So from now till next Thursday, we got a trend of from +5 to -4. I tend to look at the whole trend over the distance, because even if it's like -1 degree here, like say tomorrow, but then it's going to be +2, +3, and then back down to -5 2 days from now, you'll feel the temperatures start decreasing. It gets harder and harder to stay warm, and you'll feel that right across, right until you hit the low point. Oh, there, -6. Yeah. So, as you get acclimated, I've got all these different tarps up and trying different ways to make my bed. And after a while, you get to not worrying about much of anything. Remember, I've been up for since about 10 o'clock yesterday. So about 12, about 14 hours, 15 hours. And I got back from a really, really hefty hike in the rain. That survivor stuff is really, it's really got me thinking, you know. It made me think about, you know, where you place your fire, where you actually start. It's not just, there's so much involved, and yet I don't know how you really bring that to anyone's attention without actually going out there and walking the land, getting to know the land itself. There's a couple of rare plants, as I mentioned earlier, big trees. There's also a couple of vines I've mentioned in a previous video. Some really rare plants that I've never seen anywhere else ever. And to watch them slowly get weaker and weaker, so I figured if I go out and maybe cultivate some of these, like figure out what it is they like, what do they need. And all plants like a nice clear area around them with some uniform mulch. They don't want all kinds of competing stuff around, right? So I thought, all right, let's get rid of all the dead stuff and start with that. At least we know that's right, okay? But what do you do with all that dead debris? Well, you pile it up at the root drip line, if you will, or the branch drip line. And I'd say just leave it at that. Leave it at that. Nature will take its course from there. It gives the plant a head start. It also creates a little berm around so that moisture can develop in around there. And let's see what happens with that. I figure you got to start. I'm going to try it on the trees here locally. And there's a tree that I planted of my own here. And I've done everything wrong with that. And it's still doing really good. But no, maybe not. Because being a willow tree, I changed the lay of the land so that the water would drip. Instead of running away that way, it comes back onto the willow. And then where the roots started growing, I dug around to find out where they were. Okay, I got this one area where I've dug down like 2-3 feet. Right to where the roots are, and then piled some organic matter there. And then I'm refilling it as I go. I've even got some of my toilet paper and stuff I've buried. It's like 2 feet down. And it's like, been sitting in the rain for like 6 months. I'm comfortable handling it. And I'm using that to make soil fairly deep in the ground, but I'm doing it a little bit at a time, so I create this pocket of rich loam. And the willow roots are growing into that. The wisteria roots are going into it. And the willow provides beautiful canopy, medicines, the sticks off the willow. You can do a lot with that. I pollarded part of it, so you get hundreds of these long, long whips. Incredible building supplies. You can make rope with it, all kinds of stuff. And as I learned, each and every one of these plants, I'm torn between ecstatically happy and grossly fucking depressed. And I'll explain why in another video, because it's almost 1 o'clock. I gotta be up around 7. And I'm tired. So, this is Dave the Barn Boy from Camp Serenity, still searching for his personal identity. If you got any ideas, help me out. I'll see you on YouTube. Until the next time. Find your fashion, try and stay cozy. Remember, Earth first with Earthship Solutions. We are your local crew.